Hello everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Yesterday, second virtual summit between Indian Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart, that is Mr. Scott Morrison, happened. So in this regard, we will discuss about the India-Australia relationship. What is the context? You can see here, India-Australia summit, PM Modi says, early conclusion of the CECA, that is Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, important for economic security. Now, things about the economic security are coming into picture because of two reasons. One is pandemic, and pandemic-led slowdown has resulted in many countries talking about the agreements in order to boost their economy. And the second one is because of the supply chain management, supply chain disruptions, or the disruption when it comes to the oil and gas that happened because of Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia and Ukraine conflict. Because of these two issues, because of these two reasons, now many countries are talking about bilateral economic cooperation. And in the same context, even India and Australia are talking about the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, okay, which will boost the economy. India-Australia relations, 29 antiquities to return to India. Establishing annual summit mechanism will help in reviewing India-Australia relations. So this is what is happening. In the year 2020, there was a first bilateral annual summit. Now, in the year 2022, we have second bilateral high-level meeting, which is by the prime ministers of both the countries. Now let's look at the map of Australia and see what is important. Okay, you have to remember the Queensland, New South Wales. These are the provinces that are a part of Australia. You have to know some of the coastal cities. For example, Brisbane, important, Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. Okay, remember these coastal cities, and remember Sydney is not the capital city of Australia. It is Canberra that is the capital city of Australia. And these cities that are a part of West Bank and cities that are a part of East Bank. Perth is a part of West Bank, western side of Australia, and these are eastern coastal cities. Eastern coastal cities. This is something that you have to remember. And here you can see a small island, that is Tasmania, and this is Bass Strait. Remember this, the Bass Strait. And you have Tasman Sea over here. In this map, you can see it in a better way. Here you have Great Australian Bight. You have Tasmania here, Bass Strait. You have Tasman Sea. You have Coral Sea over here. You have Solomon Sea here. Banda Sea here. These things are important. And remember, equator does not pass through Australia. Equator does not pass through Australia. This is something that you have to remember. And here you can see New Zealand. Like this, you need to have a broader idea about the location of each and every place that is in news. Now let's see the historical connection. One important historical connection between India and Australia is that both were a part of British colonies. So what happens when both were a part of British colonies is that the colonial legacy or the influence of Britain is common to both India and Australia, and both are a part of Commonwealth nations. Both are a part of Commonwealth nations, and due to this similarity, India and Australian partnership or relationship is before independence. You will see that when we discuss the evolution of bilateral relationship. But just know, even before independence, India and Australia had very strong relationship. Let's come to the constitution. These are the things that we have borrowed from Australia and we have included in our constitution. First thing, the concurrent list. We have three types of list: union list, state list, and concurrent list. And this concept of concurrent list has been borrowed from Australia. Freedom of trade, commerce, and intercourse, which is a part of Article 19 of the Constitution under fundamental rights, and this particular provision is taken from Australian Constitution. Next one will be the joint sitting of the two houses of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, whenever there is a deadlock that is happening in the parliament. there's a provision for joint sitting. This particular provision has been taken from Australian Constitution, and remember, such kind of joint sitting, there is no provision when it comes to state assemblies. When it comes to state legislative assemblies and the legislative council, there is no such provision of joint sitting. History of relationship. In the year 1941, I've told you that the India-Australia relationship dates back even before independence. In the year 1941, Australia and India established diplomatic relations. In the year 1945, India's first High Commissioner to Australia arrived in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. 1962, a noticeable warming of relations was observed, with Australia supporting India during the dispute with China. This is a very important move which would strengthen India-Australia relationship in the future. So in 1962 war against China, Australia supported India. The visit of Australian Foreign Minister marked the beginning of more solid and varied relationship between India and Australia in the year 1985. 1992, 1991, we have new economic reforms, and the Indian economy was opened. It was open to globalization, and we famously call it as LPG reforms. LPG reforms. Liberalization, privatization, globalization reforms. We famously call it LPG reforms. So in 2009, a strategic partnership was established between the two countries, and the relations significantly expanded till then. In the year 2020, we have a high-level summit meeting that got started. In the year 2022, we have second meeting of the same bilateral summit. Okay, this is how the evolution has happened. And what are the bilateral relations? What is the state of bilateral relations? First one, we will be discussing about the political relations. You have seen in the year 2009, India-Australia established strategic partnership. But in the year 2020, it got renamed as Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which expanded the domain of, or which expanded the role of such partnership. India-Australia leaders virtual summit is being conducted. We have discussed this. 2020, there was a first virtual summit, and 2022, we have the second virtual summit between Indian Prime Minister and the Scott Morrison, who is the Australian counterpart. We have something called as Quad. What does Quad stand for? What are the 4 countries of Quad? They are India, USA, Japan, and Australia. Okay, the main aim of these 4 countries is to ensure freedom of navigation and rule-based order. So in order to counter Chinese dominance in Indo-Pacific and Indian Ocean, these 4 countries have come together. Okay, so in the Quad, India and Australia are a part of Quad. India, Australia, 2+2 foreign secretaries, and the defense dialogue is happening at a very high level, and this is an indication that the relationship between India and Australia are growing. United Nations Security Council reform is something that India is eagerly looking for, and in this context, Australia supports India's candidature in expanding the United Nations Security Council and also adding India as a permanent member of United Nations Security Council. We will discuss about the economic relations that India and Australia share. Australian government commissioned the India Economic Strategy to 2035, that is 2035. What should be the potential of India and Australian relations, and what should India and Australia aim but at 2035? This is what is the objective of India Economic Strategy to 2035. India is the 8th largest trade partner of Australia and the main Indian exports. This is something that you have to remember. Refined petroleum, which is obvious. India is very good in its refinery. Medicaments, including veterinary, India is called as the medical store of the world. India is called as the medical store of the world. Pearls and gems and jewelry, these are the items that we export to Australia. To support more Australian and Indian business partnership, and also include people to people partnership, P2P, people to people partnership. The Australian government has launched Australia India Business Exchange Program. When it comes to defense partnership, in 2014, both partners, that is India and Australia, decided to extend the defense cooperation to cover research, development, industry engagement, and regular ministerial level meetings. That is, the defense ministers of both the countries would meet and decide what to be done. Both are working together in enhancing maritime cooperation that we have seen, which is also the objective of Quad, in which India and Australia are members along with Japan and USA. Australia and India have launched OS Index in the year 2015. What is OS Index for? OS Index is for Maritime Cooperation and Security. Exercise Pitch Black is a military exercise that is happening between Indian Air Force and the Royal Air Force of Australia. Both the nations also cooperate alongside Austra Hind, Special Forces of Army exercise for the Special Forces. This is something that is happening between India and Australia. Let's see some of the strategic cooperation or the partnership that is between India and Australia. First one is the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement that was signed in the year 2014. And in order to give boost to this particular Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement, in the year 2016, the Australian Parliament passed Civil Nuclear Transfer to India by these two bills, by these two legislatures. Uranium miners and the processors or the producers in Australia can easily have connections or trade relations or businesses with Indian counterparts here, and because of that we can import uranium and use it for our energy security. In 2017, Australia signed a framework agreement to join International Solar Alliance, which was started by India and France. Okay, International Solar Alliance, which will aim to create one renewable energy grid, that is one solar grid for the entire world, and it is a first step. India started the International Solar Alliance, and you have seen both are a part of Quad, which will aim at maritime security and regional cooperation. The number of Indian students, that is diaspora, Indian diaspora in Australia, are around 1 lakh students presently in Australian universities. We have seen we had 20,000 students in Ukrainian universities, and here we have 1 lakh students of Indian origin. I hope you have liked the video. For more such enriching content, please subscribe to Legacy IAS Academy. Have a nice day. Thank you.